And before you will listen to our last two inspirational talks, I just want to have a little game. So please hands up whoever lived in such housing estates ever in its life. Okay, nice. So it's actually, most of you will know what we are discussing here. And who is still living in similar estates? Wow, okay. So you have to join us for sure in this section. Okay, so our next presenter is Regina Balla. She's an architect. She has a master's degree in architectural engineering, but she also achieved a PhD in 2022, where her topic is post-war housing estates. In her PhD, she examines large-scale housing estates built during the State Socialism in Hungary. Her research focuses on the regeneration, observing the modification of the built form and scale of the renewal interventions. So, Regina, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. It's not so easy to continue from the last presentation. So, yeah. I also talk with So, behalf of the Department of Urban Planning and Design at the BME and behalf of the Kék Contemporary Architecture Center in Budapest, I'm here to talk about the current situation of Budapest. Some words about timing. If we're talking about post-war modern mass housing estates in Hungary and in Budapest, is this 45 years from 1954 to 1991. Actually, from the result periods, experiments in urban forms, construction materials and methods, in focusing really from the 70s on the largest ones, but actually the largest in Hungary, it's with 18,000 apartments. So I think if we are thinking about our neighbors in Serbia or Slovakia, they are much larger than ours. But in Budapest, we have sure, and the last 10 years when we really could recognize also postmodern in housing estate, it was really in really large scale. So based on really elaborated data, I did it in my PhD, I would say that I can talk about also morphological aspects of the estate, but today I brought you actually not just good example, or maybe not the good example. I really hope that tomorrow the chief architect of Budapest will bring you some example in Budapest. I wanted to create a context to it, and I would like to speak about the regulation plans of these estates. Those can be really a barrier of the transformation, and it could maybe explain the causes why we have just smaller interventions, why we can't really have bigger ones if we don't complain about the funding of these projects. So this is a general plan. It's of the plan of Újpalota housing estates. It's a really small section to see the regulation. Why I would like to talking about. I think if you don't speak the local language, I think it's really difficult to understand the regulations and regulation plans, but even if you know it sometimes. Yeah. And so this is, I would give this short introduction and reflect it in the transformation of the city and housing estates. So the countries can be really diverse, but from this point of view, Budapest, in Budapest, a housing estate has a lot number. As you see it in Újpalota is this really long one. It's 91,158. And actually, under this big number, that maybe one day was a plot, now after the change, actually 1991, we have several different territorium on this estate. The crucial one is this floating plot. This is actually the residential buildings and the 1 meter line around the buildings, that it's maybe just cover the land of the house and maybe some part for the facade renovation. And these houses floating on the urban block that is actually governmental owned, and only the municipality can allow to use it. So, but you can never occupy it. That I will show you in examples why it's a problem when we are facing with renovation or renewal. We have the public buildings and different services. Those have really a bigger site, a building site with courtyards as well and gardens. So, but if we talk about the territorium and how you can build, add terraces, add maybe new sections of rooms to, as we saw it, when you don't have it like bottom up, but maybe you, I don't know, would like to have architectural competition, how to diversify this facade and not just the housing types. It's problematic because this urban block is a public domain and based on actually a law from 2011, you can't sell it, you're not allowed to build anything on these. And in other hand, maybe a nicer part of the city, it's a good thing. But what if we want to do changes on this housing estate? Another thing that maybe public buildings and services can be sold. So in this way, cash-hungry investors can take into account demolition them and really maximize the plot ratio of them. So in this way, because of this situation, if I borrow this word inertia from physics, it's really large because there is no way to have a new master plan, actually, even without or with demolition, if we could have demolition. There can be a fence garden, but only by letting the territories by the municipalities, but they can't own them directly. And public spaces can be disposed, so actually if you want to add just the size of a terrace to the building site of the building, it's actually impossible to do it legally. You can do it, I will show you some examples, but legally it's not possible. And because maybe the public buildings and services are not defended from by these different laws, you can really experience that the new developments can really consider any bigger vision or the surrounding environment of these estates. Another question is, if we're talking about foundation, it's that we would need data about this housing estate. It's another type of scale. It's not regulation. It's more public administration and statistics. So if you study a housing estate, actually this is the old scale where we would like to have data. And if we would like to have, for example, a social rehabilitation project funded by the EU, you should have this data. But in Hungary, in Budapest, there is only 12 of the really biggest 40 large housing estates with more than 2,000 apartments, where we can really find fresh data on statistics and also can be handled by public administration. So this is another problem. So I brought you some examples from not just Hungary. I just would like to cover the story with more foreign examples. So like the first one from Antwerp. This is the situation when without or with demolition, but you can have free spaces for the different building types in a housing estate. So between the slabs, maybe you could have more diverse type of houses or other services. As I mentioned, this is a really problematic because in this way we should have a different regulated structure, but we can't have it. We have only the structure that is remained now from a housing estate. So there are many barriers. I could mention a lot as the owners of the buildings and financial foundation, but I would say that after these options, we would again have a wall in front of us because the regulation is also the part of the story. The next one is maybe many of you know the situation of the Khrushchevkas in Moscow where they started to demolish them and build really a large-scale new block of flats in their sites. This is maybe we can say that we are lucky that we can't do it, but it is also something like what we can't. The other thing is we could have a really detailed renovation of the facades as well. But with tenants, inhabitants, like more than 100 inhabitants who's the owner, it's not so easy to do such type of renovation. We can say that we have really nice bottom-up initiatives as our neighbors as well. But I think where we can really focus and should and could focus, it's the public buildings. I would say that I really love this project. It's showed in the middle. It's Vizafogó Kindergarten. Was in the last 5 years, this was one of the kindergarten where you really experience a renovation of not just like in an energetic, conscious way, but is renew the space, the function. You know, today the social demands are totally different, like in 40 years ago. In this case, they could do it. And actually, in the last week, they announced a new one when this happened. But we have like more than 100 kindergartens in Budapest in housing estate. And there are just 2 of them. Those have not just energetic and really small case intervention. There are more detailed ones. And luckily we have really nice public space renewal project that actually keep alive this housing estate. But this is what we can do actually, focus on public housing, public services and different public spaces.
Thank you, Regina.